Mental health rates are rising. They've been rising for the last decade, but now they're growing faster than ever before. It's pretty easy to find statistics showing the growing problem, and the trend is the same across developed countries, with some areas showing an increase in mental illness by as much as 50%. But even if you don't believe these numbers, I personally don't know very many people who haven't struggled with their mental health. Even people who I thought were mentally well have come to me to talk about their mental health struggles. So, what's going on? Why are mental health issues on the rise? If you break down the numbers, the mental health rise has been led by depression and anxiety rates increasing across all age groups, but the most pronounced increase has been in young people under age 30. This same group, people under 30, are in therapy at much higher rates than any other age group and are also in therapy for longer than any other age group, with a majority reporting being in contact with their therapist at least once weekly for more than a year. With these rates of therapy, you would expect mental health rates to begin to decline as people got better and no longer needed these resources. However, the opposite has been happening. Young people are using mental health resources and medication at higher rates than ever before, but mental illness rates continue to climb. The reality is, the mental health approach that has been taken for the last decade hasn't been working. People, especially young people, are in therapy at higher rates than ever, but are continuing to struggle with their mental health. If this approach did work, why are patients continuing to go to therapy, often for multiple years, without seeing lasting results? The fact that you're watching this video at all likely means mental health has either affected you or someone meaningful in your life personally. All this is not to say that mental health providers haven't been trying. I genuinely believe the majority of therapists and counselors are doing their best to help patients get better, but they're not addressing the main causes of the mental health crisis. I've been following how mental health rates have deteriorated for the last 5 years and have found four main topics for the decline that are completely new for people in the under 30s generation: family, friends, religion, and culture. Each of these categories have their own weights and do not equally contribute to the increase in mental illness that we've seen. I'm going to end the video by going through the first topic, family, to explain how exactly it's contributing to the mental health crisis and also how it's unique to this generation of young people. If you haven't already, please respectfully leave your comments below and like this video. By doing so, you help this video and channel be shown to more and more people and ensure more videos like this one will be made in the future. Now, back to the family category. Family, as a category, can be broken up into three subcategories: romantic partner, children, and family of origin, i.e. parents, siblings, uncles, etc. So how do these subcategories affect mental health? Despite anxiety and depression being separate illnesses, many of the risk factors, things that increase the chance of getting the illness, and protective factors, things that decrease the chance of getting the illness, are the same. For example, being isolated or having feelings of being isolated is a risk factor. A lack of purpose or unclear goals is also a risk factor. So is a poor diet and poor sleep habits. Some examples of protective factors are IQ, so how intelligent you are. Your socioeconomic status is also a protective factor. Here's how the subcategories tie in. Being married, having children, and having a supportive family are also protective factors. The parallel to these protective factors can also be risk factors. Being unmarried after 40 or being divorced, not having children, which also increases exponentially as you get older, and being estranged from your extended family are all considered risk factors. So, why family? The subcategories I mentioned earlier all provide support and meaning to a person's life. Spouses support each other through difficult times and provide companionship. Children provide people with meaning and purpose and also provide meaningful connection that can last a lifetime. And extended families act as a support network and form larger social communities that help us achieve our psychological needs. To understand why family is impacting young people's mental health, and just for simplicity and because they are the most heavily impacted group, I'm going to call anyone under 30 the mental health generation. So I'm going to compare two average people from different generations. Let's compare the lives of Sarah from the mental health generation and Sarah's grandmother, Margaret. I'm using women in this example, but the statistics are the same for men in the mental health generation as well. I'm also going to be using statistics from Canada, the US, and the UK, as trends in these countries are generally being seen across all developed countries. So, by age 25, Margaret is married, has at least one child, but probably two, and likely has a relationship with her extended family. Sarah, by age 25, is not married and likely won't be for at least another 4 years, does not have kids and likely won't for another 6 years, if at all, and likely views her extended family as out of touch, their opinions as uninteresting or unhelpful, and views many of her current mental health struggles as at least partially their fault. Margaret and Sarah's risk factors match their generation's mental health rates. Sarah's generation has much higher rates of anxiety and depression. Her generation, the mental health generation, doesn't see marriage, children, or relationships with their extended families as a priority. Marriage rates have been declining and are currently at their lowest point ever, with many people choosing not to get married at all. Young adults in the mental health generation are more likely to see the relationship with their parents as an obligation rather than something they enjoy having. And many see their parents as a source of their mental health issues, rather than a support network. Views on children have also shifted, with many couples choosing to have them later in life or not at all. Children are increasingly seen as a negative, with a majority of men and women reporting children as unessential to a fulfilling life. There's a lot of blame to go around for the state of the current mental health crisis in young people. Parents, who haven't explained the proper life choices to their children that would foster mental wellness. If your parents haven't explained why getting married, having children, and having a relationship with them is important, then they fail to make a case as to why you should make these life choices. Therapists and mental health practitioners that are continuing to use the same therapy techniques without seeing results in their patients, and they need to continue to see them for years at a time, they need to try a different method. And even our education system. Our education system has not done anything to explain to young people what makes a healthy, happy life and what motivates us to have a healthy, happy life, with career goals being the main focus of most educational institutions. If you've asked around, most people don't like their jobs, even if they started out liking their jobs. Eventually, it all becomes mundane and boring, and the only things that bring you more meaning in your life would be your family, social interactions, and a higher purpose. Okay, so you might be thinking, what do I do? I'm part of the mental health generation. How can I avoid the mental illness everyone else around me is experiencing? The risk factors I mentioned are unavoidable, but luckily you do have time on your side. Not being married and not having kids become much larger risk factors the closer you get to 35. Then the risk grows exponentially until you get to about 45. Even the risk factor related to not being in touch with your extended family grows as you get older. With that being said, you have at least 5 years before these risks become more salient. Here's what to keep in mind. Having a good romantic relationship should be a priority, even more than getting married, because the quality of the marriage obviously impacts how much of a protective factor it is. But be open to the possibility of marriage. Marriage itself is the protective factor that consistently predicts better mental health, not just being in a good relationship. For your extended family, try strengthening that relationship by overlooking some of the things you disagree with. They very likely want what's best for you and may not have mastered the art of communication. Try being more understanding and forgiving of their actions rather than critical of what they're doing. Lastly, and probably most importantly, be open to the idea of having children someday. Children are portrayed as annoying, expensive burdens that simply act as obstacles to what their parents really want in life. I've rarely, if ever, seen having children portrayed as a positive. It's no wonder no one wants to have kids anymore. You are creating someone who will be an important part of your life for the rest of your life, and who wants nothing more than to love you unconditionally and have you love them in return. Have you ever wondered why parents are willing to work absurd hours and put their needs aside for their kids? It's because they want to. It's because the care the parents feel is like no other life experience. Like I mentioned, the risk factor for not having kids increases exponentially as you get past 35, for both men and women. A lot of young people have the opinion I'm going to delay having kids and I'm going to choose not to have kids until I'm more settled or ready to have kids. But as you get older, eventually it will no longer be a choice. It's just like any other illness. If you know the risk factors, you can better prepare yourself and better prepare your life to avoid the horrible outcomes of having poor mental health. You can be thoughtful about how you want to live your life and not live in regret. If you don't think that the information I provided today was specific to your life circumstance, or you're just looking for personalized recommendations on your mental health, I offer personalized reviews, recommendations, and action plans on my Fiverr page, starting at as little as $5. I chose the price point of $5 to make it accessible to basically anybody looking to improve their mental health. Rather than spending $5 on a cup of coffee, you can get meaningful recommendations for your mental health to improve your life from somebody who understands mental health thoroughly and who is themselves a mentally well person. Check out the link in the description below.